Okay, so who is going to buy these houses? And better yet, who is going to be able to afford the rent on these houses? We have inflation at records right now, up at 7.9%. It's growing faster than it's grown so fast that the only time to compare it to is back in the early 80s. And we're going to go over all of this information on the charts here on the left. But I'm just very curious when we see the mortgage rates are spiking on the 30-year up to almost 5% on these mortgages. We're seeing what happens when the Fed raises rates. And I have some very interesting charts to show you that I have pulled up here on the left. Spent a lot of time today digging up some information on all of this because it's a little bit different this time around. When you go from 0 to a measly 0.3% on the federal funds rate and somehow the mortgages start spiking back up to almost 5%, and meanwhile, we're at record highs on the price of homes. So people are flooding out of the dollar. They're trying to find a safe haven. They've chosen real estate throughout this entire last few years here. And now you have houses at record prices. But now that the federal funds rate is starting to climb higher and higher and higher, they're going to, in effect, hit those mortgages. But the interesting aspect is that these federal funds rates are not really jumping very high. I'm going to show you just how high they have to raise the federal funds rate to actually do something here. But the interesting aspect is by raising it a measly 0.25%, you see mortgages spiking much more than that. So normally you'd see it more of like a slow kind of methodical going up with the mortgage rate with the federal funds rate. But right now we're seeing just a tiny, whenever you move it just a tiny bit on the federal funds rate, the mortgages are jumping up higher. And meanwhile, the banks are going to start being harder and harder to give out these loans. And the loans are already up at this high price on this inflation, with inflation on top of that. So I hate to be all doom and gloom all the time, but it's like, is anybody tell it like it is? Is there anybody out there telling it like it is? So let's just go over some of this information. I got some charts pulled up. If you would really appreciate it if you smash the like button. If you're not subscribed, what are you doing? You just click that subscribe right there and the bell afterwards. Would love to have you a subscriber, but we spent a lot of time digging up this information. You're going to see what I have pulled up over here in just a second. So if you find some value from this information, would really appreciate it if you just smash that like button, turn it from gray to blue. Would really mean a lot to me and helps with the YouTube algorithm. I got nothing to sell you in this video, so if you could do that, would really appreciate it. So let me show you some of the stuff that I got pulled up. So here's the federal funds rate. Let me move myself over there. So the federal funds rate, now this is something interesting I wanted to show you that I was looking at earlier. So this is when you hear about, they're hiking rates of the Fed, that's this chart. So it's funny because this didn't show until recently, but that little tiny pop right there, that little thing down there, you see how it went from 0.07 to that little pop, boom, to 0.33. That's what they did. All that news, all of that stuff out there. Oh my gosh, they're raising rates. That's what they did. That little boop right there. Yeah. We have inflation like it was back here, and our media makes a big deal about that. It's pretty unreal. Like it's pretty laughable that's anyway. This is the federal funds rate. So when we talk about Feds hiking the rates, they're talking about this chart right here. Now, keep this chart in mind. Ready? Keep this chart here in your mind. Now look at this one. I promise you that's a different chart. It doesn't look like a different chart, but I promise you it is a different chart. So here's back to the federal funds rate. This is a different chart, but it looks like the same chart. You see what I'm talking about right there? Literally looks identical pretty much, but it's a different chart. This is the 30-year fixed rate for mortgages in the United States. And as you can tell, back when we had super high inflation, the reason why it's so correlated to the federal funds rate is because it is. When you raise rates, mortgage rates go up. So Paul Volcker raised the rates up to 22% back in the 80s. And then guess what? Mortgages were extremely high back then. For a 30-year mortgage, it was an 18% rate to get a 30-year mortgage. You had to lock that in. So yeah, it was a tough situation for the housing market then. And then as you can see, there was a recession there. And so you can see that this is literally, although it looks like the same chart, they are actually different. But the interesting aspect this time around is you see you actually see a correlation. So you see Paul Volcker raising the rates here, and he gets it to 22%, and you see that correlation that it goes up with it. But this time around, it's like spiking much more so than it did for that kind of a jump. So when you go back to the federal funds rate, they raise it just a measly 0.25%, but you see the mortgage rates go from here, and they're just spiking up, back up to 5%. Now, that's scary to me, because if they do decide to actually hike the rates like Paul Volcker did, what do you think is going to happen to the mortgage rate here? Like, it's going to go to these insane levels like it was in the past. So the only thing the Fed can do, really, and by the way, I talked about this in a prior video, every single time the Fed raises the rates, so Paul Volcker here raised the rates, boom, a recession's to follow. I think it's about 100% track record that every single time they hike rates, the gray period is a recession. So you hike rates, recession. There's a double recession here. So they hike rates, recession, hike rates, recession. You start going from here, hike rates and recession. You hike rates from here to here, recession. You go from here, right before 2008, they start hiking the rates, and recession follows right afterwards. And this is the 2008 recession. And then again, they're starting to hike rates just a little bit again, and then boom, recession for those little 2 months in March of 2020. And then now we're at zero here again, and then they've raised it a measly 0.25%. And let's see here. You have 100% track record of every single time you hike rates, there is a recession to follow. So I wonder if this time is going to be different. You know, like every single time they hike rates, boom, recession. Hike rates, boom, recession. Hike rates, boom, recession. It's like, I wonder this time around, when inflation is red hot, houses are more expensive than ever before, somehow you're going to get away with hiking rates, and that's going to stop inflation. You have a squirt gun. Powell has a squirt gun, and he is battling an inferno. That is what he's doing. He's sitting there with a squirt gun, battling an inferno, and telling us, oh, I got it under control. Things are going to be okay. It's just fine. It's like, no, it's not. What are you going to do? You're going to if you raise rates where you need to, if inflation is up here at the 7.9 range, you have to hike those rates to here. You literally have to bring it up to here. I hope the cursor shows right now. It's like you would have to get it there. And then what do you think is going to happen? A huge gray period of recession will happen after he does that. So this tiny little, you don't see Powell going live showing these charts because it's pretty embarrassing. That is what they did. And if they raise it that much, we're already seeing a huge spike in the mortgage prices like I just showed you. So this is the long-term chart on the mortgages, and this shows you how much room the mortgage rate has to jump. So if people, and right now it's crazy because people are flooding into real estate because they want to get that fixed price. You want to fix that 30-year if you could get it under 5% right now, because it's back here was just literally giving away money for free. But it's still, as long as it's under 7.9%, it's still technically giving away money because you're lower than inflation. The problem is you're paying record home prices. That's the problem. So you might think you're getting free money, but you're paying record prices on these houses. And are you going to be able to survive if the entire housing market starts crumbling, if you go through a recession? I don't know. It's like I look at real estate, and you might get yourself a good deal out there where you're able to find a tenant really quick to get you cash flow in. But if you're just buying for yourself, it's going to be tough out there. And honestly, I don't know who's going to be able to afford these rent prices. So if these fixed mortgages start getting super high, you have property taxes, you have all the things you have to deal with. Who's going to pay these high rents to make it so you have a positive cash flow on an investment property? It's going to get harder and harder to get tenants that are good tenants that have jobs to be able to pay the rent as it gets higher and higher and higher like this. And then on top of it, you're dealing with inflation with your gas, you're dealing with inflation with your food, and all of this is going on. It's just, it's hard to be anything but negative right now. I want to be positive. I'm a very positive person. I love what I do for a living. I'm very excited about life, but it's like when you look at all of this, somebody's got to tell it like it is and just say, look, it doesn't look good. It looks really grim. I've been doing my podcast. If you guys have been subscribed to the channel, I've been doing a few podcasts with my friends in the finance space, some hedge fund manager friends of mine, and they see what's coming, but they also kind of have this this approach where we're going to go through possible deflation, like inflation will tap out at some point. But the problem is this CPI figure that we just went through, it doesn't include the invasion overseas. That was just in February. It doesn't include the March data. So what we saw at 7.9%, it is likely going to be another well over 8% on the next one, if not higher than that, maybe 9%. And then the problem is after all of that, it still doesn't show the real CPI data that it was back here. So if we'd use the same CPI back in the 80s, I've said it time and time again, it would show that inflation needs to be up to, they would have to raise the federal funds rate to up to what Paul Volcker did to stop it, at least to 10%, not this little tiny, it's embarrassing, but they'd have to bring it up to at least here. It's crazy. And then at the same time, the problem is people are flooding to the housing market, but at the same time, if you let me move myself over here, this is the 10-year. The 10-year is up to 2.5% on the 10-year bonds, which if inflation is 8% and you're locking up your money for 10 years, just to put this into perspective, let's put the yearly chart here. So the 10-year is up at 2.5%. So that is supposed to be a safe haven from inflation. The problem is inflation is literally more than 5% higher than that, 5.5% higher than that. So you're losing 5.5% in purchasing power by going into a 10-year. And by the way, you're locking up your money for 10 years to do that. Now, what's interesting is to lock it up for 20 more years. To lock it up for 20 more years, you're getting a measly 0.1% more. You heard that right. 20 more years. Yeah, lock up your money with me for 20 more years and you'll get 0.1 more. That is a lack of trust in the government. If you want to, that's basically saying, I'm only willing to lock up my money for 10 years. 30 years, we don't want that. We're just going to lock it up for 10. But who would do that? Who would, for that measly 0.1% more, you're signing a agreement that you're going to lock it up for 20 more years. Nobody wants to do that. They're just going to do the 10-year. But still, that's not enough to stop inflation. And what's crazy is, so this is the yearly. This shows you that it's at 2.5% to lock it up. But let's go over the year on gold. Gold over the last year is up like 12, 13%. So literally, could you imagine you have a choice a year ago and you could lock your money up in a bond at 2%, 2.5%, and your money's locked up for 10 years. Or you could have just bought gold and you would have been up over 10%, and then you could have just sold it at whatever. Say you had 100 grand and you locked it up in a bond. Well, now you got 102,000, 102.5, right? Now, you don't get to touch that money. It's locked up for another 9 years. But if you had put that 100 grand in gold, you would have 112,000, 113,000 now. You could sell 10,000 of it if you want. Keep the profit or whatever you wanted to do with it, and it's in your custody. You don't have to ask anybody permission. You don't have to break any contract. So who would choose a bond over gold? You would just rather have gold or silver. It makes no sense to get a bond. So what's really an inflation hedge? I mean, obviously, gold is doing a much better job combating inflation than any type of bond would do. So the goal would be to own this down here. It wouldn't be to own any of this. That's foolish to lock up your money there. So there's something to be said about that. When you actually calculate it, I mean, could you imagine if you bought 100 grand worth of gold, you have 12,000, 13,000 profit. Why not just sell your profits, sit with your original investment, and then you don't even have to deal with any of the bond stuff. You're already up 12%, 13%. You'd have to literally lock your money up for what is that? You'd have to lock it up for 5 years just to get the same rate, something along those lines, 5-6 years just to get the same rate. And then you have to wait until the entire 10 is up to even get that. Anyway, bonds are ridiculous. Who would want to be in a bond? I don't know. But that's supposed to protect you from what's going on, and it obviously isn't. So that's why you're seeing people flooding into the housing market. Now, what I wanted to show you next here is houses are at record prices right now. So you're paying a 5% mortgage rate, and at the same time, these houses are higher than ever before. So this is actually the price of what a new home manufactured would cost. Back in 2014, the price was around 80 grand to make a double home. The single homes down here, this is for a double, so a little bit larger of a home, I believe, is what this is talking about. So about $80,000 is what would get you a new home manufactured in the United States. This is just a bundle of all the prices, I believe, here. So it's down to $80,000. Now, that same price went from $80,000 to $140,000. So in, 8 years? It's gone to 140,000. At the beginning of all of this money printing, this price was around 106,000 here, 107, 106,000, and now it is up at 140. Yeah, and inflation's only at 7, 8%, right? Yeah, I doubt it. The reason for this is because lumber's costing more money. All of the labor is going to cost more money. There's probably going to be a labor shortage of people to build these houses. And then on top of that, there isn't going to be people to afford the houses that are being built. So it's just, I don't understand what is going to happen next, but it seems to me that people are flooding out. That is, it's going to be a flood of money coming out of equities eventually here, going into safe havens, but probably first the dollar sitting, and you see the dollar up at 98. The dollar index is up extremely high right now. And this is the dollar. The DXY is basically a judge against all the other fiat. So people are choosing the dollar over the other fiat currencies out there. And I think this money, and this is why you see the velocity of money so low. People are sitting on their dollars right now and looking for something to throw it at. But the problem is, are you going to want to pay record prices for your house? Are you going to want to sit with these dollars on the sidelines, and then you have to basically, prices are higher than ever before on homes. Are you going to go and buy a house right now with that money, or are you going to sit on the sidelines for longer until eventually the inflation eats it away? And the worst part about all of this is the people who have made all the money right now, supposedly all of this stimulus packages and everything was to help, right? It's to help the poor. No, what has happened is everyone who owned assets has gotten filthy rich, and now the divide is getting further and further than ever before. And now to qualify for one of these mortgages, you're going to have to pay a ridiculous high price for the house now, and then it's harder to qualify the mortgage. And there's people that got the free money in the beginning, mostly rich people, and now when people want to go buy the house, the mortgage rates are going to be high. So it's going to make it eat like more. It's like a double inflation eating up at you because you paid a high mortgage rate for your house. It's crazy that this divide is happening so much, and it's all due to this excessive money printing. Oh, and by the way, as this is all happening, the Fed is, I have to show that real quick. The Fed is sitting on a ridiculous amount of assets right now. So most of this is mortgage-backed securities. So they went from, this is how much money printing the Fed did and how much buying they did. So they went from $4 trillion on the balance sheet up to nearly $9 trillion on the balance sheet right now. So we could pretty much just say it's $9 trillion. And most of this is mortgage-backed securities. And now they're not buying them anymore. So what's going to happen to the housing market when you don't have an artificial buyer anymore? And they're planning to unwind this. So they're stopping the QE. They're planning to unwind these mortgage-backed securities. And at the same time, you have mortgages that are already going up. I mean, it doesn't look good. And then their tool to combat this, to combat inflation, is to do that. That's going to stop inflation. Again, that's like Peter Schiff is right on that analogy of using a squirt gun to battle an inferno. And this is like a multi-building inferno. And they're using it sitting there. You got Powell like grinning with squirt guns, like they're going to stop it. They can't stop it with that. That's not going to do anything. So they're going to have to raise it to here. It's going to trigger a recession. Recession will crumble the housing market, and it will crumble the stock market at the same time. The winner will probably be the people sitting in real assets like gold and silver, precious metals, Bitcoin, things like that, and dollars. See, I have never wanted to do this ever since I got involved in precious metals, and I've learned about fiat currencies. I never wanted to sit on dollars. That's like the last thing I want to do is have an account with a bunch of dollars in it. And I still struggle to do this as I'm making this video. But it makes a lot of sense to have a very large cash position right now. Some of the most intelligent investor friends of mine are sitting on an extremely large cash position right now. So what does that tell you? It was very valuable to have a lot of dollars ready after the 2008-2009 collapse. Those who did made a fortune. So I really don't see, the Fed has put itself in such a terrible position right now that the only option they have, and let's say they raise it because they want to get it to 1.9% on the federal funds rate, right? So they would have to start doing some 50 bip hikes. So this is 0.5% hikes. Realistically, they have to do multiple percent hikes at a time, but let's say they do the 50 bip hikes, basis point hikes. I don't even like using the term basis points because it's kind of like trying to fool people or something. It's really 0.5%. It's 0.5% hikes. So I think they're going to probably do a 0.5% hike on the next one. And when they do that, things will get out of control. Every time they hike that rate, that mortgage price is going to go up as well. And right now it's exceeding the price. So they've only raised it a measly 0.25%, but mortgages are up at nearly 5% now. So it's going faster than the rate that they're hiking the federal funds rate, which usually it lags a little bit, but right now the market is going ahead of the Fed. It's like the market is making the decision for the Fed right now, which is different than we've seen before in the past. And meanwhile, the tools that they're using is not meant to like mess up the mortgages on houses. It's meant to combat inflation, and they can't combat inflation. So what I think the Fed could do here, and this would be extremely scary if they did this. I think the Fed causes chaos. Like if I'm just going to game theory this out right now and just say what I think could happen, I think the Fed could hike rates. They're going to do a 50 basis point hike, which is a 0.5% hike, and then that will trigger chaos in the markets. Mortgage rates will go up quite a bit, and then on top of that, you'll see the stock market crashing, and we'll head towards a recession because they start raising the rates. And literally, like I've shown you on this chart before, I mean, there hasn't been a single time that they've raised rates, recession. There isn't a single time they've raised rates that it didn't cause a recession right afterwards. You raise rates, recession. You raise rates, recession. Literally, this is 2008. So this is when they were giving away. This is studying the 2008 federal funds rate. What happened right before 2008 is actually very relevant. So right here, this is actually 2004. The federal funds rate was down at 1%. They started raising rates from 2004, 2005. They went up to 3%, 2005, 2006. They got it to 4.52%. Keep in mind, right now it's at 0.33%. And this is, so they were giving out bad loans on houses. You get to right here, you get over 5%, boom, huge housing bubble crisis, huge recession. And now look how long they were giving away money for. Look how long they had been just giving away money at 0%. This right here was giving away money that caused a housing bubble. Look how long they have been giving away money and printing money and all this stuff going on, just sitting it at zero. Then they started raising it just a little bit, trying to do the right thing. Then the pandemic happened. Boom, we get dropped back down to zero. And they raise it this measly bit, and it causes all this chaos already. So imagine they get it back to the level that they did that caused the 2008 crisis. Imagine they get it back up to there. What's going to happen again? To me, it's clear it's going to be a recession. Now, that's just my personal opinion, but it seems very obvious what happens next here. The worst part about it is inflation back at this time wasn't nearly what it is today. So the inflation back then in this period, I'm showing you, 2008, it was not even 1%. 2007 is at 4%, 2.5% 2006. So well under 4% range for that time period. And now we have it well over 7%. It's actually 7.9%. This needs to be updated here. This is for the yearly inflation. But we didn't have that back then. And so, and this is a little bit more of a zoomed up. So this shows you just how fast the mortgage rates were climbing. So right here at the bottom, this is probably January of 2021, you had it at 2.65% on a 30-year, so basically giving those away. And from that January 2021, just about a year later, from 2.65%, 30-year mortgages are almost double that in just a year, back up to 4.42. So pretty wild stuff here. And to me, it seems like, and look how low it is compared to where it can go. I just think that the federal funds rate, they're going to have to raise it quite a bit. They're saying they're going to raise it to about here. I think what happens, and I didn't finish my sentence here, I think what happens is they start raising the rates. And I'm going to get to the comments. I see a super chat. I see a few super chats. I never miss a super chats. I appreciate those. I'm rambling a little bit, but I will get to the comments in a second here. And again, I never miss those, so I appreciate it. But just to kind of finish that thought here, I think the Fed will raise the rates. Maybe they even get to 1%, 2%. They get to that 1.9 like they want to, but that causes chaos. Now that chaos happens and stock market might plummet, things like that happen. Then I think they start up the QE again. And they just have no choice to start the money printer. And what does that do? It pours gasoline on the inflation fire. So basically the Fed has no choice. There's really two options here. You cause an insane recession by raising the rates where you actually need to raise them, which I don't even think they can do that without being bankrupt pretty much. But let's say they raise the rates to 10% and they somehow stop inflation that way. That will trigger a recession just like it did in 2008. And you know what that causes. Now, what they're doing right now is like peeling off a Band-Aid really slow and giving everybody anxiety. Oh, are they going to raise the rates? Are they going to do 50 basis points? Are they going to raise it 0.5%? Oh no, are they really going to do that? And so everybody has this high anxiety level over nothing. So everybody has anxiety over Powell with his squirt gun battling an inferno. You know, that's what it is. It's not like he's sitting there with a hose trying to battle an inferno. No, he's got a squirt gun and everybody's got anxiety about this right now. And what is he going to do? And you say he raises it, he causes the chaos. Then what I think he'll actually do is start QE again, print another 4 or 5 trillion, something along those lines. And just to put that into perspective, by the way, I actually put this up on my Twitter. I'm probably going to spend a lot more time on YouTube than these other platforms, but from time to time I go on these other platforms. Mostly I'm going to be on Instagram and YouTube. So if you're not following me on Instagram, at Rob Soltan on Instagram, and I always give a heads up. So if you wanted a heads up on this live feed, you would get one in the story on my Instagram. But if Powell continues to go down this route, really all he can do is cause more inflation. So the only tool left is to basically go into QE again, start inflation up back. Like if he prints another 4 or 5 trillion, it's just going to make inflation go way worse than it is right now. And right now it's already really bad. And keep in mind, this report doesn't include what's happened overseas and all the constraints that's happened. So this next CPI figure, I can't say guarantee because this is all my opinion and it's not financial advice, but it's probably going to be more than 7.9%, this next one, because it didn't include the invasion overseas and all of the constraints that caused. But really, he's put in a very tough place right now. He's put in a very tough predicament, and there really is no way out. And they're basically just slowing the process, which is very scary. But to put all of this into perspective, just how many trillions have been printed and all of that, in the last 2 years, roughly $15 trillion has bbeen printed. So in the last 2 years, roughly 15 trillion. I believe the figure is up higher than that now. But to put that number into perspective, and now since it's tax season right now, and I'm sure everybody's feeling it. You know, I'm feeling it because it's definitely a bunch of stress we all have to deal with. To show our books, to balance our checkbooks. They can't balance their checkbook, but we got to make sure ours are right and balanced, right? But to put all this into perspective, and I think a number that not enough people look at is just how much money does the U.S. government make off of tax revenue. So if you had to guess right now, put a guess in your head, how much money they make. Keep in mind, they printed roughly 15 trillion in just a couple years. How much money do you think they make in, if you consider them like a business, how much money do they make off of tax revenue? It is actually around 3 to 3.5 trillion. So to put that into perspective, they could have not made everybody pay taxes for 3 years straight. 3 years straight of no federal income tax, nothing. And they would have saved 5 trillion. But those stimulus packages really helped, right? They really helped. They caused ridiculous levels of inflation. Meanwhile, everybody still had to pay their taxes. And it's like this is what happens when you give a child a checkbook. They mess everything up. And it's just sad to see it. It gets me riled up. So that's a lot of the rambling I wanted to do right now. The mortgage situation actually bothers me quite a bit because I was looking to buy a warehouse and grow my business, which I probably will still do, but I'm going to have to pay a higher percentage. But at the same time, the prices are so high right now. It's like you almost want to wait for a possible collapse. It's so hard to navigate what's going on right now, but I'm doing my best, and I hope this video helps you in some way. If it does, please do hit the like button. It really does help get these videos out there. And if you're not subscribed, really appreciate you hitting the subscribe. But let me get to some of these comments real quick. I see some of these super chats. Boombox says, I appreciate the super chat for $10. He goes, I work at Papa John's and our prices just keep getting higher and higher. Our delivery fees are going up due to gas, and my managers complain about the price of our cheese and toppings costing more. That's what I love to see is this is in real time. I don't love to hear that, but I love to see and hear from the comments right now in real time, because this is actually the real data, the real things that affect us, not this CPI that we're told is only 7.9%, because gas is up a lot more than that. Groceries are up a lot more than that. As you see, we have somebody that's in the pizza business. You see that their cheese and the toppings and stuff is costing much more money, so profit margins are getting thinner. And at the same time, your customers are expecting the same $10 price or $20 price for whatever they're getting. When you raise the price on them, all of a sudden they're going to start complaining more, and they're going to say, "Hey, what's going on?" So there's all this going on, and at the same time, it's like bosses aren't going to their employees and saying, "Hey, inflation's up around 15, 20%. We're going to pay you 20% more this year." They're not doing that. If you're making $5,000 a month, they're not coming to you saying, "Hey, we're going to pay you 6, 7." That's not happening. So it's just troubling to see this. And then our leaders, they have no idea what's going on. No idea. And either they have no idea or they're blatantly lying. And the real data is clear. Again, you don't see Powell showing these charts about how they raised it, that little measly boop. They act like they're doing something. Like, "Oh, we raised rates. We did something. We're stopping all this money printing." Well, you still got $9 trillion on your balance sheet, buddy. Still got $9 trillion there, and you've raised it nothing. So what exactly is your plan? Because really, the only thing you can do is cause a recession. And that's the bitter medicine the economy needs. And really, you need to cause a recession and then go back to a gold standard and make the money sound again. That's what you really got to do. But you're not going to do that. But the problem is, all of this is happening, and at the same time, you have other countries that are transacting in things outside of the dollar. So we're turning off our pipelines, and meanwhile, our dollar is the petrodollar. It's back to oil. We're turning off our pipelines. We're messing up our energy independence, importing oil from other countries that are now buying and selling in things other than dollars. Saudi Arabia just did a deal for yuan. They're getting paid in Chinese yuan. The Russians are accepting only the ruble right now for their oil, and they're trying to get payments in gold and things like that instead of the dollar. They might even go for Bitcoin. That's another thing in the news, that they're open to getting Bitcoin. I think it'll probably be gold first, and then they might adopt a Bitcoin standard. They might actually accept. Basically, what they're going to do is they're going to find, if you have, I can relate this into the precious metals and collectibles industry. And this is why I'm getting into the auction business and all of that. If you go to my website, Mineral Exchange, you know that I'm working on some stuff with the website. There's some stuff launching. Wink, wink. I've been working on some stuff. So if I haven't been making the Friday night lives, we're getting back to those. I plan to do those every Friday. But anyways, something I know from the collectibles business is that if you have an item that other people want, they will find you, and they will find a way to pay you in whatever way that you need to be paid. So Russia has a desirable item that other people want. They got gas. Better yet, they got natural gas that Germany and the European countries, they need those really bad. They need that natural gas really bad. So they're going to pay them in whatever they ask to be paid for. If they say, "No, we're not accepting dollars," which they've been de-dollarizing their economy for a long time. They've been planning this since 2014. They have other ways of using transactions outside of SWIFT. They were just waiting for the U.S. to weaponize SWIFT so that then they could go, "Look, it's not our fault. They kicked us off of SWIFT. So now we can't accept dollars. So, it's not our fault anymore." We played right into their hand, right into it. They literally wanted that, which is, that's my personal opinion. But now that they've been kicked off SWIFT, they're going to start accepting anything but dollars. And now, at the same time, we have red hot inflation. We have all these problems in our own country, and we're dealing with other countries' problems while kicking them off of using the dollar. Like, what is going on? Like, hey, I'm just a simple, kid trying to navigate my way in this world. But the thing is, it's like our leaders and our economists are just blatant liars, in my personal opinion. So this is what I see from my perspective, and I just spend all of my time researching this data every day, and it gets scary. But anyway, last super chat was Boombox, and I appreciate that. DG Nomad says, "Curious what your play is going forward. As much as it kills me, as much as it irks me to do this, I went from wanting 10% cash to 20% cash to wanting 30, 40% cash. I want to have a large cash position right now, and I'm not selling my precious metals for the time being. I'm continuing to accumulate the metals that I think are very undervalued. I like silver, I like palladium, I like platinum. I like gold as well here, because now you see Russia. I think Russia and China will adopt a gold standard way before they adopt a Bitcoin standard. So I like to have both. I enjoy having both gold and Bitcoin. I don't see any reason why that you can't have both. But it's just a matter of time, really, until a country tries to adopt a different standard than fiat. Because right now, how do you stand up against the dollar? Well, you back your money to something. If the Russians decide to back their money to gold, well, then now they're not a fiat currency anymore. Now, I don't know if I trust them that they're going to actually back it to gold, but on a higher level, other countries will start transacting in gold-backed money, and they might actually want the real thing. And people forget, you can load $10 billion worth of gold on a single C5 plane. And they can, on a military grade plane, you can fly like 10 billion overnight in gold. People make it seem like it's like a mountain or something like that. It's really not. You can get a small Navy ship could lug tens of billions of dollars in gold. Tens and tens of billions of dollars. And just like, nobody's going to shoot that down or something to declare war over a small gold shipment back and forth. And these countries like Saudi Arabia have already done this before. They've already forced people to pay in gold. And so basically there's a lack of trust in the dollar. And even though we see the dollar index high right now, I think that that's temporary. I think it's temporary, and I think there's a lack of trust in all fiat currencies with the dollar included. And if one of them decides to back it to something real like gold, waters get very murky. So what's my play? I'm sitting on a cash position, but with the intent to throw it at opportunity when the opportunity comes. So if you're sitting on cash, just sit on cash, it's a foolish idea. But sitting on cash with an intent to do something with that cash, with a plan of action with that cash, I think is a winning position right now. So to have, 30, 40% cash, and then have your precious metals, your Bitcoin, and then you could possibly be lucky enough to already be in real estate, try to figure out a way to get cash flow going, get your business going, things like that. For me, that's what I'm looking at, is keep building my business, make sure I have cash flow, make sure I have a good amount of powder dry to throw at something, so cash in the reserves, and then my precious metals and my Bitcoin. That's how I'm looking at it myself, and collectibles as well. But that's my play personally. Appreciate the super chat, DG. Let me go through here. I think I didn't miss it. Vacation. What's up? Vacation Time 247. He's been with me since the very beginning. I appreciate that. If we get to 100 likes, Rob will flip over the sand timer. That's how you know. That's how you know Vacation Time has been with me for a long time. I appreciate that, man. I don't know if I could go for another 30 minutes, but I would go for another 15 minutes if we get to over 100 likes. I'll tell you, we'll go for at least another 15 minutes. I appreciate that, man. I think that might have been the last super chat, so I got to all of them. I want to make sure that I don't miss any of those. Oh wait, nope. I think there was one other one. I never miss those. It really means a lot to me when you guys do that, so I tried my best to get to all of those. Actually, no, that was all of them. Yep. So basically these are all the things I really want to talk about. I hope I wasn't ranting too much in this video, but I don't know. Maybe in the comments right now, I'm looking at the comments as I'm speaking, and it's like, can somebody tell me anything positive the Fed can do? Like this is what I keep asking these hedge fund managers and stuff in my not my live feeds, but in these podcasts I've been doing. I dropped a couple hour plus long podcasts where I kind of dug into these hedge fund manager friends of mine, and I'm going, what positive outcome do you see from the Fed? And the best answer I can get on it is that people just aren't going to be willing to drive places. If gas is too high, they're just not going to go buy gas. And if houses are too high, they're just not going to buy houses. And that's somehow going to stop inflation. I just don't think that that's enough. I think inflation will continue to run hot, and that there's nothing we can really do to stop it. Or when I say we, the people who caused it is the Fed and terrible policy, but there's nothing that can really be done to stop it. And so what do we do right now? Well, I'm going into precious metals, collectibles. I want to get into real estate, but the problem is I think the real estate bubble pops and there's going to be another opportunity like 2008. I think this time around, we're going to see a detachment with precious metals and Bitcoin like we haven't seen before. In the past, in 2008, the entire market crashed. So gold went down with everything. Silver went down with everything. So let me pull that up actually in this. Just to show you guys what I'm talking about. A lot of people are asking me what's going on with gold and silver. Actually, to be fair, gold is doing pretty well. I mean, over the last year, for gold to be up 12, 13, 14%, that is combating inflation. Like that, like if inflation is around 15% and gold is, right up there with it, then it actually is doing well to be a hedge against inflation. Gold is. Silver, on the other hand, is really just lagging. It's ridiculous how low the price of silver is. I'm personally accumulating silver. It's back up at $25.50, which is good, but it should be well over $50 an ounce in my opinion, just at the same highs that gold is at. But let's pull back gold's chart to 2008 to show you what I'm talking about. So during the recession in 2008, you saw gold fall from just over 1,000 down to its bottom of 680. So it actually fell like 30% with the overall market. So you see that gold fell. It wasn't until after that money flooded into it. But this time around, we're seeing gold detach. So let's pull up the yearly here. Gold has detached and gone up around 12, 13, 14% over the last year. And at the same time, we're seeing the overall market fall during that same, during the recent period, actually. Excuse me. Let me go to the 6 month here. The S&P fell from just under 5,000 down, but it's actually recovered now, it's just crazy. The stock market is crazy, but even with this small recovery, you see if we pull up the 6 month on gold, while the stock market's down from those highs, gold is actually starting to detach a bit. So that same period of time, we're seeing gold starting to detach and go up and not go correlated with the market. So this time around, I don't think it's going to be the same as it was back in 2008. I think that it continues to detach, especially with news that Russia might possibly go to a gold standard, China might possibly go to a gold standard, and back the yuan with gold, or they back the ruble with gold, something along those lines. So you have that news going for gold in addition to the fact that it's already detaching without that news. I think precious metals continue to go up while the stock market falls down. Who's going to buy these ridiculously overpriced equities? They're probably going to sell out, go into the dollar, and go into safe haven assets that I have here. That's kind of the same thing I've been talking about on my channel for a long time, but those are really the only options here. And if real estate, if mortgage rates continue to go up like this, if we're seeing mortgage rates spike and spike and spike like this, people aren't going to buy houses. If houses continue to be at all-time highs and mortgages are more expensive, people just aren't going to buy houses. So that takes real estate out of the picture. So where are the other options there? It's really only gold and silver. It's precious metals and Bitcoin. After you realize that if you take real estate out of the picture, the only options left is that. So where is this money going to flood into? If you have all of this money in M2 and all that M2 money supply is just sitting there doing nothing, keep in mind, when it was up here, this means money was moving around. But if the M2 supply is down here, that means people aren't doing anything with their dollars. So you're sitting on a ton of dollars, inflation's running red hot, and mortgages are spiking. So you're not going to buy a house. Houses are also at all-time high prices. So way too high of prices. Now mortgages are going to get up to 5% and then keep going because they're raising the federal funds rate. So mortgages are going to keep spiking up. So that takes real estate out of the picture. What are you going to do with this money that's sitting under mattresses here? Where's it going to go? To me, it's going to flood into precious metals. It doesn't have any other option. So I think this is like the ultimate bull scenario for precious metals right now. We're just not seeing it run as hot as it will in the near future. I think basically right now is the time. We'll probably look back on it and see gold at 4,000 or 5,000, see silver up at 100 an ounce and go, wow, we really should have been accumulating at that time. Just my personal opinion, not financial advice. But usually when this is the moment where you look back on it and you go, should have been buying there, sort of thing. But I think the best move right now is sitting on cash, sitting in the dollar, and buying precious metals at the right opportune moments. And I think right now is one of the opportune moments with precious metals, especially platinum group metals and silver. I mean, these metals they're just giving them away right now. It's ridiculous. That's my outlook on it. That's what I'm doing personally. Let me go back. But yeah, it's crazy. I really don't know the right answers for these things because I would like to consider real estate a good place to park money, but the problem is if they keep raising the federal funds rate, mortgages are going to keep getting more expensive. And we already have, again, I keep repeating myself, but we already have houses that are higher than ever before. So what are you going to do? And then the other thing too is that houses like in places like Florida where there is an estate tax, like people are running away from California. They're running away from all these places that have high estate taxes, and they're going to Nevada. They're going to, Arizona, Florida, like things like that. And these house prices in those specific places that you can get away from the state taxes, those house prices are through the roof. So Florida real estate is like bonkers right now. Real estate everywhere really is bonkers, but specifically in those states is ridiculous. So I don't know. I mean, if I was in charge of things, I would have said, hey, we're going to go through some seriously bad times right now. So we're just not going to have anybody have to pay taxes for the next 3 years. That's how I would have stopped things. So I would say, yeah, inflation's running red hot. We're going through a really tough time. But rather than spend $15 trillion making inflation worse, let's spend $10 trillion and let our economy boom by not taxing our citizens for 3 years. Isn't that a concept? Wouldn't that be a crazy concept out there? Am I crazy to think that way? If you make 3 to 3.5 trillion a year off tax revenue, then why not just not tax the citizens for 3-4 years? You would literally have saved money. You would literally have saved trillions upon trillions of dollars. And what would happen? More people could afford more employees. They would actually feel like inflation's not hurting them that bad, because then at the same time, they're not having to pay these taxes every year. So you're not as worried about inflation because you think in the back of your mind, well, I'm saving money by not having to pay for that. That's actually helping people. But no, they disguise like hurting by stimulus. We're helping you, but we're actually hurting you. We're helping, but we're hurting. Like we don't want any of your help anymore. How about you just go away for a while? You've been messing things up for a very long time over there. How about you just go away? How about you back your money to gold and you don't steal the gold again? Things like that. It makes me sick. I mean, these are the type of things that mess me up with the algorithm on here. So this video might not get as many views when you talk like this. Like, oh, this channel saying that it would be a better idea not to tax the citizens. Oh, let's definitely not let that get out there in the universe, because that's way too logical of an answer than printing 15 trillion and causing record inflation levels. Like it's crazy. But yeah, so if anybody could help like the video, share the video, get it out there, because I rely on word of mouth advertising, because it's hard to get in the algorithm when you talk about the real information like this. It's not easy. But yeah, that would be how, if I was in charge. I know there's like this, my friend Jerry actually started this situation. So my buddy, his channel is Jerry Loves Bitcoin and Gold. I think it's Bitcoin, Gold, Silver, Platinum. Look him up. He's a great dude. He might be in the live feed. I'm not sure. But Jerry brought this up and he said, Rob Soltan for president sort of thing. And if I was involved in any type of political stuff, which I don't, the thing that bothers me about politicians is they all do the same thing. They're all the problem themselves disguised as a solution. They say they're the solution, but they're really the problem. And they're always just that problem disguised with a solution to try to sell you. And meanwhile, they're the problem itself. So I don't care if a politician's left, right, whatever. I don't like any of them. I'm a libertarian and I believe in a small government. That's what I believe in. What the founding fathers believed in. That's what I believe in. So what would I do? I would make the government smaller. And I would get them to stop meddling in the people's affairs. They shouldn't be involved in medicine. They shouldn't be involved in schools. They shouldn't be involved with the excessive money printing. All of that stuff, our country wasn't designed to do what's happening right now. The Federal Reserve isn't even part of the government. It's a separate entity. That's how crooked things are. They can't be a government entity because it wasn't legally permitted to do so. They had to create a separate entity to do this. So same thing with, anyway, I don't want to get my channel too many dings by talking too much truth on here, but if we get enough likes, maybe the algorithm will get this information out. But anyway, that's the true information there. But somebody, let's see a few comments. There's quite a few comments, so let me scroll to the bottom here. Someone said, Ryan says silver is so undervalued. It's actually laughable. I agree with you. Someone said like XRP. I don't believe in any of the altcoins. I only believe in Bitcoin. That's the only one I like. And I've made videos on this in the past, but I've done my research, and there's a reason why I don't own any altcoins and I only own Bitcoin. There's a reason for it. And so I don't want to get too far on a different subject, but everybody always asks me that. Are you in XRP and you are in this altcoin, that altcoin? No, I'm not in any altcoins. I'm not in any NFTs. I'm not in any altcoins. I'm only in Bitcoin. That's the only one, and I'm still skeptical. So like that's the one that I choose. That's it. I only have Bitcoin. That's it. And there's a really good reason for that. Why am I not a fan of diamonds? Because there's a lot of them. People think that like diamonds are rare. They're really not. What's rare is like a very nice ruby or a really nice emerald, like a GI certified certain colored stone. You know, that those are actually rare. If you have a high grade ruby, high grade emerald, high grade sapphire, things like that, those are actually worth a lot of money. But diamonds are like those are a dime a dozen. They're really not that rare. And people, it's like a big facade, in my opinion. I guess pun intended when you say facade, but faucet, facade, anyway. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of those, but I am a fan of gemstones. So with my company, I plan to be doing a lot more gemstone stuff in the future with Mineral Exchange. So I see some people asking where to get silver, where to get gold, stuff like that. There's a lot of places online. If you want to do business with me, go to my website, mineralx.com, like SpaceX, mineralx.com, and you'll see that there's a registration form. Put in your information there, and you'll be first to know when we launch. And hint, hint, we're going to be launching in the next couple weeks here. So it's actually a lot sooner than people think. Been working on the website quite a bit. And I'll be launching an auction site and a buy it now site as well. So there's a store and an auction site on it. Very simple, very straightforward site. We already got a few products up already, but I'm learning how to use the back end of the website. So I'm testing things out and getting things rolling, but it should be launching very soon here. And I've started to get the hang of it. So mineralx.com if you want to do business with me. A lot of places online, but if you want to do business with me as well. Man-made diamonds killed the real diamond market. That's true also. Like cubic zirconias and stuff like that. There's a lot of fakes out there for sure, and really good ones. So again, if I was looking as an investment, I would only be in like precious metals as an investment, but gemstones would be my next up, way higher than diamonds on the list. Way higher than diamonds on the list. Joe Schmo, I appreciate that. Joe Schmo gave me a super chat, said, keep up the hard work, Rob. I appreciate you, Joe. Thank you, man. I'm going to keep this live stream about an hour. So we're at 52 minutes right now. So we might go for another 5 minutes here and go through some more comments here. Yeah, you need special equipment, Ryan. It's definitely not easy. But again, if you're in this live stream and you want to know when I do the future live streams, so every Friday I plan to do these. But if you go to my Instagram, so this is my Instagram right here. Follow me on Instagram if you want an extra notification. Again, on YouTube, for some reason, I don't get the notifications don't always get out there. So if you really want a notification and you don't want to miss out, let me move myself over. In my story right here, so this is my Instagram. On my story, I post a link to the live feed. So if you go to my Instagram right now and you look at the story here, in addition to all the collectibles and stuff, people want to know what I'm buying. I saw in the comments, people want to know what the type of watch I'm wearing, stuff like that. All of that's on my Instagram. So if you want to follow me there, shoot me a follow on Instagram at Rob Soltan. And you'll also, every time you click my story, that's where I update on videos and I update on the live feeds, things like that. That way I'm able to have a little bit of decentralization in a way, because if I only rely on YouTube, sometimes they don't give out the notifications, if you catch my drift on that. So please do follow me on Instagram at Rob Soltan on Instagram if you're not already. But that way you always get a notification. De Beers started the whole diamond engagement scam over 150 years ago. That's true, actually. And I believe the De Beers diamond fortune is in Russia, of all places. I have to double look on that, but I believe that is the background of them. But there is some merit to that story. What is my background? You know, maybe one day I'll go into a deeper background on myself, but I'm still in the process. People think that I'm like some like extremely successful person. I've had some success, but I'm still in the journey right now. Like I said, I'm still coding my company. Like I'm still coding my website and building everything out. I've had 5-6 years being somewhat successful in the collectibles business. I was a waiter prior to that. But I'm still in the process right now. You're on the journey with me, really. I don't want to act like somebody I'm not. I'm still building things. I'm still building my company up. I'm not even nearly where I want to be with Mineral Exchange. So it's just a matter of time before I roll out the things that I've been working on. But it's a lot. It's a lot. Coding a website, coding an auction house from scratch is not easy. So you'll see if you go to mineralx.com, you'll see how much money I've been putting into this and building and stuff. But it's also knowing how to upload, knowing how to put the inventory on there at the right times, and like there's a lot of stuff in the background that people don't notice. But I'm still on the journey. Long story short. How much do I have to tip you to flip the sand clock? I don't know, man. I don't know. I want to do these at about an hour so people can watch these later on. 100. That's a pretty good ratio, vacation time. You're right. I appreciate that. Someone says, that's a random comment, but I do have a little bit in me. Rob, what is your opinion on the I don't want to get into that stuff, man. But the red hair actually does come from, I believe it's from being Ashkenazi. So I am a little bit, I think I have like 30% or something like that. So I think that's where I get it from. I'm actually not Irish or Scottish or anything like that. But this is a fine man way, shipwreck silver. Yeah, right now on the website, I think I put the Atosha bar up, not the Atosha, the Garsopa bars up on the website right now, and a couple 100-ounce bars and a little bit more of collectible stuff. I think I put a JM bar up there at like 3,300 or something along those lines. But if there's stuff that you're interested in, shoot me a DM, or just there's a wholesale buyers form. If you fill that out, it'll actually give me a notification. I'll be able to get in contact with you if you're looking to buy in more wholesale levels type of amounts of silver, stuff like that. But I'm trying to not like shill my company too much because I'm still building stuff on the background, but eventually things are going to be rolling out in the near future, probably in the next couple weeks here. So if you want to register, it's a very straightforward website. So again, it's instead of SpaceX, it's just Mineral X. Maybe I could show you guys on the live stream. I don't think I have my, let me see here. I might actually be able to show you on the live stream here. If I could just pull that up. Don't know if I have that. I don't have my keyboard in front of me, but normally I would be able to. Anyway, you could go to the website. It's just Mineral X, like SpaceX, mineralx.com. SpaceX, mineralx.com. If you want to go to my website and you want to register, you can go there. You enter site, and there's a thing to register or log in. You register, and then I have your information, and you'll be given an email when we launch, and you won't be given spam. I'm not a spammer. I will just let you know when there's good information. So if you want to do that, you can do that. If you don't, you don't. Ran solar panels, walls, houses, farmland, silver in my bag. There's something to be said about farmland. So someone said good name. I appreciate that, Casey. It was not easy acquiring that domain name because I really wanted a good domain. The .coms are expensive. If you see some people have websites that are like .co or .io or stuff like that, the .coms are hard to get. So I own mineralexchange.com and mineralx.com, which was another thing I had to acquire, which was not easy. But I appreciate you saying that, man. Thank you. What does crypto definition mean to you? Some people aren't going to like that my definition of it. I just think of it as there's a lot of scams out there. Like you'll see a lot of like social media individuals pumping up these random crypto coins like Shiba or whatever it might be, some crypto coin. That's what crypto is to me. It's an altcoin. There really is only Bitcoin. When you do the studying and you do the research, Bitcoin came out and it was Bitcoin, and then all these altcoins came in to try to scam people. Now, there's some that have a little bit of merit to them, but pretty much none of them. I don't know. In my opinion, Bitcoin is the only one that's really decentralized because it has there's so much I could talk about with Bitcoin, but I don't like the term crypto. Crypto is not a term that I roll with, to be honest with you. I believe in Bitcoin. Someone just said kinesis. They actually wanted me to. Am I allowed to say that? Are they going to get? Do I have to deal with legal problems if I say that? No, they emailed me. I didn't email them. I didn't agree to nothing. So no, I can say whatever I want. I denied them. They tried to get me to do an advertising thing, try to give me some money to advertise for them, and I don't believe in their product. Why would anybody give their money and get a token for gold and silver to sit in somebody else's vault? That is foolish. That is a definition of insanity. I don't trust them. You shouldn't trust me to hold your gold and silver. You better, if you pay me money, you better believe that I'm going to ship it to you and you verify that precious metal with your own with your own metals verifier, or take it to your local shop or something like that to prove that your metals are good. But don't trust anybody, including me. But the last thing you want to do is, like, imagine if there was actually a scam. Rust Coin did a scam where they told people that they were trading silver and they were holding the silver, but they actually weren't doing that. I should do a video on that and expose them. That would be fun. But there's been Ponzi schemes out there where whenever somebody else is holding the asset, that's when corruption happens. So I don't trust some random blockchain-based gold and silver company. That's foolish. That goes against everything I believe in. I believe in you having the custody of your money, have the custody of your asset. Don't trust me. Don't trust some other company to hold it for you. Don't put it in their depository and get a little token against it. They have the asset. Last time we did that, they stole it. Last time you trusted the U.S. government, you gave them your gold and silver. What did they do when they gave you IOU notes? That's what it is. It's an IOU note. I don't believe in IOU notes. I believe in owning the real thing. If you're going to do it, own the real thing. That's how I feel about it. I'm not taking any of their money. I'm not interested in it. I won't sell out for that. If I ever do an advertisement or something, you better believe it's something that I believe in. I'm not going to get, and I can promise you they offered, because I'm the perfect mixture. I got the crypto and the precious metals. It's the perfect mixture, but I don't believe in their product. So I'm not willing to do that. I'm not going to do it, period. I'm not interested in doing any advertising for stuff I don't believe in. But that's where I'm at with it. Do you collect other collectibles like baseball cards, comics, sneakers, NFTs, arts, toys, etc.? Precious metals, and like the types of precious metals that I hold are collectibles. So that's been my niche for a very long time, is like vintage silver, vintage gold, things that are harder to find, like old school bullion bars that actually have history to them. I really like those, and I've put a lot of money in those. I have a small watch collection that has done actually ridiculously well. It's actually one of my best performing things is my watches, which is crazy to think about. People think that you wear a president or something like that, and they're like, oh, it's some gaudy watch. It's like, this thing only goes up in value. Since I bought it, it just keeps going up in value. It's crazy. So those are the things I put my money in. But if you want to see like actual pictures, like I showed you my Instagram, if you want to see actual pictures of like the collectible bullion and stuff, because there's bullion. There's your bullion that was minted yesterday and stuff, and people made those bars, within the last couple of years or something like that. And then there's really old stuff from like the 70s, the 60s, the 50s, even earlier than that. And that stuff is pretty rare. It's hard to come by the vintage stuff because those companies are out of business. So I like to go for the vintage bullion. That's one of my specific places, because you pay a little bit of extra money for it, but the collectible value of it is going up. Like there's not $25,000 in gold in this watch. There isn't. But the collectible value is what's added on top of it. But bullion, you add a small collectible premium and you get a very rare piece in bullion form. So I actually really like the rare bullion market myself. And a lot of people don't even understand the rare bullion market, but there is a huge market in vintage bullion right now. So that's a place that I really like, because there isn't that big of a premium on it in comparison to other collectibles. But anyway, I think I'm going to call it a video, everybody. I wanted to be here for, about an hour. We're a little bit over an hour right now, so I appreciate all the love. Thank you all for another great live stream. But I plan to be doing a lot more content on this channel, a lot of shorter clips too. I just did a shorter clip talking about Tesla right before I did this live feed. That's something interesting that I saw happening with Elon Musk, and I really do think if you haven't watched that video, watch it after this one. But I think that he's going to get involved in the media business. It makes a lot of sense for him to use Starlink and all of that to have a decentralized media, something like Twitter, a mixture between like Twitter, Instagram, YouTube all together in some sort of platform. It would be really easy for him to do it. So I think you'll see the video. I posted a video. It's just before this one. So if you want to watch another video, watch that one. I've done a lot of podcasts too, if you want to watch those as well. They're like over an hour-long interviews, really grilling hedge fund managers. Like, it's me doing the interviews, guys. So like, I'm grilling them. I'm asking them very tough questions. I'm not just rolling with the interviews. Like, I'm telling them, like, how do you see the Fed coming out of this? What is and I still haven't gotten that good of an answer yet. I still don't know if I buy the answers that I've been given. So I'll just continue to grill people whenever I do those podcasts. So please do tune into those as well. And if you could like those videos and get the information out, anybody who shares it on social media, really means a lot to me. I'm putting in the work. Everybody who's been following me, you know that I want to get to 100,000 subscribers this year. So I got a lot of work to do. It's not going to be easy. I'm only at 26.5 or something like that on the subscribers. So I got to get 4x from here. That's a lot of work I got to put in. So a lot more content to be given out on the channel. Please do click the subscribe. Please hit the like button on the videos. I know I keep saying it over and over again, but it really does help because I can't rely on the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't really like me. It's not a fan of me for some reason. I don't know what the deal is with the algorithm. I see some channels of talking hands. Like, I put my face out there. I put the risk out there. I could be a talking hands channel, guys. I could not have made this fancy set. I could have just put my hands on the table right here, put some fancy stuff on here and been like, this is what you do with the... Get it. I keep seeing these talking hands channels. I'm like, they're doing better than me. I'm blowing it. What am I got to change my setup here. Maybe I should have done just the hands the whole time. Just talked about just not talked about anything with my face on it. Just done some hands. Maybe go to a local, maybe not be the dealer myself. Anyway, I don't want to bash on other people too much, but I'm trying to put in the work, everybody, and I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the support, but if you see me turning into a talking hands channel, it's because the algorithm likes that for some reason. We'd have to do the clickbait with the hands, We'll get to that. Maybe they're not going to be too happy when I start showing off some shipwreck treasure and stuff with my hands. You never know what I'll throw up on my channel to get to 100K. We're going to make it happen somehow. One way or another, we're getting to 100K this year. So thank you, everybody, again, for all the love, all the support. I appreciate it. I will see you at the next video. Signing out.